Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. I'm your host, Olivia Akin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We give you real-life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with actress Gabrielle Walsh. Gabrielle has been captivating audiences with her performances across film, television, and voice acting. She first made waves with her breakout role in Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones, and has continued to impress in series like The Vampire Diaries, Shameless, 911, and Lucifer. Currently, she stars as Lacey Quinn on NBC's gripping drama Found, where she plays a law student and survivor using her past to help others find hope and justice. Gabrielle brings emotional depth, strength, and authenticity to every role she takes on. Her journey is a powerful example of what it means to stay committed to your passion, evolve with your craft, and use your platform to make an impact. Hello, Gabrielle. It's fantastic having you on the show today.
Hello, hello, Olivia. Thanks for having me with that fabulous introduction.
Listen, you've done some amazing things, and as someone who's watched some of the shows you've been on, seeing how you really take on those characters and really tell the story, it's an honor to have you on today. So, that being said, there's a lot I want to cover with your career, how you embrace the roles you're in, especially with Found, for example, with such a character that can relate to so many victims and the power of finding your voice. So let's dive right in. To start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Gabrielle Walsh?
What success means to me, this is just something recent that has come to me just this year because I feel like myself, but a lot of people are experiencing transformational times in their lives. They're noticing things that need to switch and shift, and they're feeling the pressure to like push into this new self. And so, success means to me honoring your potential, to honor your potential. And I think that looks different every day. You know, I always say, like, do your best, put your best foot forward and put it forward in the right direction. And eventually you're going to end up to where you need to be, or at least closer to your goals.
I think that's really important too, because sometimes we all feel like we're working towards something and we just haven't hit it, or we have that goal in mind and we're like, wait, it's not going to happen, right? And we start getting that self doubt. But if you really just focus on what you said, that potential you have, and keep striving towards that, things will play out the way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
And
Oh, sorry.
no, I was gonna say on that too, like, how do you keep focus on striving towards your potential, whether that's in current roles you have or potentially looking at what roles you might want to take on?
Yeah, well, you know what, Olivia? It's like I know that in some of the accolades and the things that you listed, it seems like she's got it together. But listen, girlfriend, life can be a mess and can be very messy, and I can be messy with it. So I think it's like what's important to me is like you have to like really envision what it is for you that you want to achieve and see yourself at that place and act as though you are. That sort of like, who is this person that has achieved all the accolades and success that I desire to achieve in this life? And then from that standpoint and with that forward momentum, look at the different pillars of your life and try to, organize and do your best at where you're at. I mean, one of the pillars that I seem to gravitate towards the most outside of like career is like uh physical health and like fitness. Like that's one of my things. And I think it also is like a mental health thing for me as well. Because if I'm active within the body, I know how much it affects my mind. So if I see when things, I just want to point out that I have this dog too. Like if people like see me just like petting like Dr. Evil, that's what's happening. um, but when things are sort of off kilter or off key, with life and I'm feeling like stuck or stagnant, I usually am like, okay, let me assess what my pillars are in my life, my relationships, my home life, what's going on with my career. You know, how can I stretch and challenge myself in this moment to show up as that person that I see myself to be? And also within the physical health, usually I notice when the mental is thrown off, it's because I haven't been moving my body. I haven't been making time for those things that I need that connect me with me.
And I think the aspect of having those pillars and to going on what you said too, it really sounds like you take time. I don't know if that's monthly, weekly, whatever it might be, to check in on yourself on where you stand with those pillars. And I think sometimes we might have pillars in our life, but we forget about doing the check in and really going, okay, if things are feeling off kiltered, like you said, what is that thing that might be shifting one way over the other? And how can I maybe get back in line with that? As someone who completely works remote, let me tell you, sometimes after a long day, I realize like I've not been outside in like 2 days, like outside my house. And I'm like, okay, now it's time to do like an activity. No wonder I'm getting to the point where I'm stir crazy. Like I haven't been working too much. You got to go outside and do those exercises and get out and acclimate to your environment. And I think, especially for people who are very career driven and want to succeed in all avenues, and they work at home, or in your case might be on set for hours, sometimes it is important to say, okay, have I done these other aspects in my life recently, or do I need to make sure I carve out time for that?
And you know what? Like, listen, sometimes I didn't even realize I hadn't been outside being on set because we'll be in these stages and then you don't know whether it's day or night. And you come out and the sun hits you and you feel like you're a vampire. You're like, ah, like, what's going on? But you're like, I needed this. I'm like a flower. We have to go out sometimes on our breaks and whatever time we have to get, like some light and get outside. Being on set too can be like, it's very time consuming, like some of like from the crew to when you have to be there are there for like 14 to 16 hours a day, 5 days out of the week. Like I'm still kind of like figuring out how to make that time for myself. And I think there are things like when, like just what you said, you felt restless and you're like, wait, maybe I need to get outside. We get so caught up in the doing of things sometimes we can forget about the things that are important until our body or our mind starts to like clue us in, like, hey girlfriend, you need to like take a nap, or hey girlfriend, you need to go get some sun. So I think in listening to that, becoming more self-aware and like being intentional about what those times are, and I'm speaking to myself right now, being intentional on what those times are to sort of check in and make sure you're good, that you're taking care of those things that help you stay connected to you and where you see yourself going. Also, like having community is so
Mhm.
important. You know,
And I've found that myself is as a spouse of someone who is in the US Coast Guard, and we relocate, and currently being in Juneau, Alaska, where it is a very different environment than the Northeast or Florida, where I grew up in the Northeast, and Florida was where we were last, where here it's a very different environment. So figuring out where you fit in community wise, how to engage. Like it took me months to build up the courage to like they have a women's group in Juneau, like Women of Juneau, and like they have stuff they do every week and you could get involved with it. And it was interesting stuff, but I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I'll fit in. Like just so much
I don't know these
self-doubt.
people. We're in Alaska. What does this mean? Like, yeah.
Exactly. I was like, I don't know, this might be weird. And then I finally something resonated with me where I was like, no, I just have to try it. And they were offering a free sign language class. And I was like, I think that would be really interesting to learn and something too, where it's like, it will give me tools to be able to communicate with people who might not be able to communicate with all the people around them in different environments. And I went and I was like, okay, you guys are cool. Like now I'm getting more comfortable. But I want to dive in and to talk about your current role as Lacey Quinn in Found. You really are, you lean into the character of someone who had a traumatic experience when younger and is not allowing necessarily that experience to shape them in a negative way. You lean into the aspect of, I have a voice. I'm going to use my voice. I'm going to make a positive impact in the world and help others who've gone through experiences that your character does. For you, what was it like deciding to take on that role and making sure you represent the victims properly, as well as how has that spilled into how you look at things now? Because you do play such an impactful voice for the community and educating as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, man, Lacey is uh, Lacey. I had well, first of all, I had no idea. I had no idea. Like I knew from the script and the sides that I got that this woman, yeah, has an impactful full voice. She knows how to pull people out of a dark place, and I love and admire that about her. She has a light that shines like within her, but I didn't know necessarily all the details about what had happened. I knew that she was taken when she was younger, and then once getting the script and getting a full layout, sort of like being taken at the age of I believe it was 9, at the age of 9, and and then even finding out, and I love that you said has such a voice, because that's so powerful, the intention of what NK, the creator and the writers developed, that this girl at a very young age did not have a voice. She lost her voice and she had to find it again. And she found it through, again, we're talking, circling back to community, around the people that, she loved, that were there, that she looked to help facilitate that. Lacey is a light, and she likes to shine light into the darkness. And I think she understands the importance of the cage that trauma can be and keep people in. And she's not done it on her own. She's had a beautiful mother. You get to see
Mhm.
Dion, who came on, and how she played, young Bella's mother, and how she showed up in her life. Like, she has a beautiful light to facilitate and bring that out to her. She's also had therapists. Like, you haven't heard that, but they allude to it in one of the episodes, I believe, when she's speaking with Zeke, to help her gain perspective. Like, we all need help and community, and so she's with that, made a conscious choice to dig into that light and be a light in the darkness, instead of allowing it to keep her in that cage of victimhood, which she is a victim, and there's nothing wrong with like having being a survivor you know of these things, but being but when you're really able to be able to live your life, and find that, beyond happiness, but joy still,
Mm.
having dealt with the hard things, like, that's where I think a lot of us wanna be. Like, life is tough, and we all have our own respective traumas that we've had and experienced, and we always wanna, like, sort of, like, go back to before then, but the truth is we can't. There's no rewinding the tape, but there is moving forward and looking to a brighter future. And I think Lacey is a perfect example of what that is. And yeah, I know you had like two questions in there, so I
I
wanted
s
to, yeah,
Sometimes
answer.
I get carried away with myself. I just wanna make sure we cover it all. But one thing I wanna highlight too in what you were saying there and Lacey's story is you're touching upon a character who had trauma as a child, had an experience that could, depending on how you heal from that trauma, become very isolating and very much hard to express to others why you might think a certain way, why you might express things a certain way, all these aspects. Not only now has she become such a voice and powerful, and can you've created the character, and I say this in a way because you are ultimately the one who is bringing Lacey's character to what it is today in a way where I I've watched the character grow and go through hardships, and I'm like, well, I feel like Lacey Quinn could like be on the street right now and I could connect with her and she'll be so welcoming in all these aspects. But I think the interesting, like, additional layer to it is you watch Lacey Quinn go through another experience in the show where, as an adult, where it all that trauma and PTSD comes rushing back, and she has the choice to either allow that to take her over or and define her, or push through it and allow all the things she's so passionate about doing be the place she leans in. So for you, taking that role and then turning it into your personal life side of things, how do you make sure when you're going through hardships that you're pushing through and making sure you don't get stuck in certain areas?
That's a great question. So for myself, when I go through different difficulties or I find myself in obstacles or just events that happen that kind of like shake you and shock you and push you back, I would love to say that I just like, just pick it up and, pull myself up by the bootstraps and go and forge ahead. But, I try to in my life and in my work be an experiencer. So, healing trauma and these things are complicated. It's not a linear thing. And that's something that I had to learn the hard way and deal with, not identifying with my feelings a lot of the time. And my identity. But what I've come to when I've gone through these different things is when I go back to, again, my why. My why am I doing this? Why am I pursuing this career? Why do I want to be the best that I can be? Like within the vision that I have, like what is that for me? And it helps ground me in, in showing up. And you're not always going to feel like showing up, but it's important that you do. For me, my why, I mean, I have, many things that are within that, but for me, one of my whys is the the lost little girl that was afraid to like speak, was afraid to be herself and show up for the fear of being rejected, that wanted more than her life circumstances were showing her, and believing in some way that she could do it, not knowing how, not knowing what, but like, hey, there's got to be more to life than just this. And so when I go back and I look at that and I look at her, I'm like, hey, like, hey, we're here and we're so much further than we were, and we just need to keep stepping forward in faith and trust this journey, because there's so many times in life that I've lost myself to find myself, to lose myself again, to find myself again. So not expecting that you're always going to be on solid ground, not expecting that you're not going to face any obstacles or adversity. Like everyone has them on every level, and it's just that if you keep pressing forward and utilizing tools that help you and remind you of who you are, you may be lost, but you'll be lost in the right direction.
And for you, you brought up your own experiences there, and I want to dive into that a little bit in how your experiences, whether that be in childhood or adulthood, shape how you show kindness to others, right? Because I always say, when you go through different life experiences and traumas and things that can really define your path, and you decide to go a different route, you make that decision. And then when different obstacles show up, in your life in different ways, you decide whether to lean in with kindness and relatability and being able to have those conversations or turn your back on individuals. So for you, having gone through those experiences, how do you try to lean in with kindness when you see other people struggling, whether they bring it up to you or not?
Yeah. So growing up, like I didn't really feel like I belonged anywhere. Um, and that was difficult for me, but I would find myself in all these places with different people from different walks of life. Like, I'm Black and Irish. My dad's not wasn't a person who had an accent or anything like that. He's like third and fourth generation. But like being Black and white, but like most people thought that I was like Latin. And like so like cultural identity wasn't really something that I carried, but I was around these people and I felt like, I was kind of pushed outside of being accepted, but I wanted to accept everyone else. And so I began to see myself in everyone because I noticed that we all have common threads in this life, like universal truths that connect us to being human and experiencing life. Like we all have desire. We all want to be loved and accepted. And so when I look and lean into those things, it makes it a lot easier to see other people and to see myself in other people to where I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere or was accepted anywhere. I had to make the choice to, see myself in these people to feel like I was a part of something. And so it helped me, like life is a mirror and we're mirrors for each other. So I remember that, like if I want kindness, then I have to give kindness. If I'm in like the different that's the beauty of being an actor. Sorry, I'm like being a little scattered about this because I'm like, there's so many things that pop up with it's such a good question. Um, but like being an actor, you put yourself in other people's shoes a lot of the time. Like you're putting yourself literally in their shoes and you're acting as though. So, like doing that with other people in life instead of like jumping to offense a lot of the time, which it happens. Hey, we're human. But putting yourself in the other person's shoes, thinking about like what are you trying to achieve here? Are you going for just to be right or to emote your feelings? Are you trying to find a solution and trying to find a life that exists within peace instead of, all this like chaos and conflict? And once I started to do that, I was able to just get a lot further and find a lot more peace in my life. So I know choosing kindness is like choosing peace. You have to
I,
show up in a certain way sometimes though to, like, let people know, like, what's what. Like, like, don't take, like, things for granted, but at the same time, if you lead with kindness, you're gonna get to people quicker than if you lead with, defense.
I 100% agree. And let me tell you, I say sometimes the redhead comes out. I'm like, you don't want that piece. You said.
Tell me
Um,
about it. And she's from the Northeast too? Like
I'm like, we get to a point and I'm like, okay, sis. And then I'm like, you really don't want to go there. And then they go there and I'm like, okay, well, I warned you. And now when I have to be mean, like, my friends joke, I really wait a long time. I try to problem solve. But to me, my biggest things, and I'd love to hear like your take on this for me, don't come after my family, don't come after my friends or ethical issues in like how we should show up and give voices to people and this and that. And so for me, when you go after those things, and I'm like, I am definitely the person that comes prepared to the argument.
you
So
got the
like you're
receipts. You got the receipts. That's what they call it. You got the receipts.
like, you don't go on this route of the conversation. But now that you've overstepped the line, kindness can no longer be shown because there's also a line of being too kind.
Yeah, or too nice, I mean, well, it just depends, right? Like if somebody's like just said it, like stepping over the line, you're stepping over boundaries, you're not proceeding with value and respect.
Mhm.
So when that happens, you also have to know, like, pick your battles. Like, where are you going here? Because there's people that like listen, I hate saying that people are stuck,
Mhm.
because I always think that there's opportunity for change. There's always opportunity for, the light to be shown in, but sometimes they're just not going to be receptive to you. So what are you really doing? You're going to waste your time and your energy on a place, a person that's going to take you to a different place? I mean, and in a way, it's gratifying because we can kind of like get it out and let them know and, let them know who you are and assert that authority. And sometimes it's needed and you have to, you know, stand firm and, be true to who you are. But then other times you got to find when you're just like, you're wasting your breath and you're trying to push and move someone in a certain direction. They're trying to push and move you. And both of you are walls. You're not going to go anywhere and you got to walk away you know? But I mean, I think what you're saying, to your point, like, yeah, when someone's overstepping the boundary, it's important to set that line and let them know that, like, hey, this is how you respect me. And if you don't want to proceed in that way, then I gotta step away. Now I have a choice if I'm gonna continue to just like allow you to indulge in this disrespect. And me too, because sometimes it be that, that thing that you didn't stick up for yourself in that one moment. And now here's your opportunity to tell it like it is with this person. And they're gonna get the years and years of the BS that you don't have to deal with right now because you're ready to stand up? So,
E
yeah.
exactly, and I know we're getting towards the end of our time and
We are?
talking. Yeah. Girl,
Wow.
we're
Alright.
having such an impactful conversation, it's just flying by.
I love
Um,
it.
but I want to leave with, before we start wrapping up, this one question. As you think of the kind of impact you wanna leave, not just through your work, but through your present, what conversations or narratives do you feel are still missing in the industry or that you would like to help bring forward?
In the industry, I love that. I think mental health, like taking care of yourself, like truly taking care of yourself. Like this, it's such a competitive industry when you're going after it. Like you have to really like ground yourself in the truth about you. And in the truth means in the light, in the positive, in those things like I am capable, I am strong, I am brave, I am lovable, I am accepted, accept myself. Like those things are so important. And when you get into the depth of the work and you're working and you're, doing these hours, you have to be making sure that you're making time for yourself. Those non-negotiables, because they're not going to make the set, they're not going to make time. They're trying to make they're trying to make their own time. They're trying to make a fulfill a quota, right? And they're trying to do it as quickly as possible without, overspending uh the overseeding the budget. So you have to make sure that you have those things, those non-negotiables for yourself to be taking care of yourself that connect you with you, your mental and your physical and emotional health. And you've seen so many actors, right? That like, like they're addicts or they've died, like committed suicide and things like that. And like we're taught to just like give so much and give your all that, we're not giving to ourselves or making sure we're balanced. Like one of the things that I would like to see is maybe there's, a psychiatrist or a psychologist that's on set to be able to help people like kind of come out of this way. Because if you're working within a character for a period of time and they're going through something, there's no way that it can't affect your life. Your perspective is shifted and being skewed by this character and their perspective. You're bringing truth and light. So it's going to bleed as much how positive you are or whatever, it's going to bleed into your life in some ways in the way that you see things. So you have to be aware that that's what's happening and you're under the spell, as my acting mentor likes to say, of the scene, of the work. And and make sure that you're being present to you and remembering who you are in a healthy way.
And so that being said, I gotta ask one more before
Tell
we
me,
go.
lay it on me.
So, as Lacey Quinn, who, as we've discussed, since that is such a role that's happening right now and such a conversation around the show of you and bringing light to those experiences. How do you, when you obviously you're going on, what is this? And I'm losing count right now. You're probably filming for season 4, right?
Not yet. No, not
Not
yet.
yet,
We're
but
we're
I mean,
we're we're
we've
working
got
on getting greenlit for season 3, but it's looking
yeah,
good, but yeah.
yeah. So season 3, I'm like, there's so many great episodes. They tie me in so much. I'm like, I
This will
forget where we are in the season list. Um, but you've been with that character for a little bit now, and obviously in that role, there's been lots of experiences that happen. So how do you take a step back and make sure it doesn't bleed over into your aspects of life?
Well, girl, I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. I think again, like, you know, I found myself, because I want to do my best, and where I see myself in this career, and truly becoming like a master in my craft. Like I desire that, and that takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of like sacrifice. But one of my old acting mentors, my acting father, Joe Police, had said, "You got to make time for yourself. You got to make time for life, because how are you going to portray life if you're not living it?" So, one of the ways that I do outside of like binge watching, which is my like, I guess, unhealthy habit, as it gets into the binge part, I love it. I love it so much. I'm like, I'm working here, right? You can make these excuses for yourself. I'm working, is to get outside. I like to get outside other than watching like something funny, get outside, ground myself in nature, meet up with friends who are like on the path as well. So we can like talk about these things and kind of like process and decompress, because you're on set with so many people, but then also like when you go back, it's like all these thoughts and things that you had experienced on set and with the character are just like blah, 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 buzzing around. And you got to talk to somebody who's outside of that to be able to process. Also a therapist is great. And things that are gonna dig you into when we deal with these like these darker parts, like being kidnapped and having people missing, and even suicide, like you have to make sure that you yourself in your life like dig into the light. So listen to some music, sing, dance. I just like, I keep reiterating like movement. Moving your body is so important. It just balances your emotions, your hormones, your mind and body connection. So go dance, go sing a song, go be silly and goofy, dig into those parts of yourself as well.
Well, thank you, Gabrielle, for all of your insight today. I've had an amazing conversation with you, and the time has really flown by.
Yeah, I see that. This was fun. And thank you, Olivia. Great questions.
Of course, and a few of our key takeaways from today's conversation includes honor your potential. I love how Gabrielle started off our conversation with this anecdote of honor the potential you have, show up, keep working on it, keep driving that potential forward. Because even in those moments of ebbs and flows, that can, if you focus on the potential you have and how to bring that potential to light, there can be so much impact, not just for you now, but in the future, as well as how are you shining the light on the darkness. And I think we all, and this is a challenge I want to give to you, is like evaluate today, spend a few minutes. How are you bringing a light to areas of your life or other people's lives where there is some darkness right now? Gabrielle has mentioned a few times today as well, therapy, movement. There's so many things we can all be doing. So start doing them. As well as you're not always going to feel like showing up, but sometimes you have to. And this is so true, especially in different times in our life and different mindsets we might be in, whether it's work related, personally related. You don't want to be there, but it might be an obligation to be there. It might be important for someone in your family to be there. So you have to show up and be present in those times, as well as how you see yourself in other people. I love how Gabrielle brings this up in being able to connect to other people, people of different experiences, being able to show up in the right way as well, as she mentioned, is she looks at she tries to find herself or aspects of her experiences in other people that allows her then to connect with others. And also, I think personally hearing what she said on this allows us to also show up in the right way, even if they're not telling us how we need to show up, being able to understand the experiences they're going through, even if it's a little piece of that, can make all the difference, as well as long term of having that trust that gets built, uh, feeling like they're not alone. You never know what difference that can make for someone. As well as choosing kindness is choosing peace. This might be one of my favorite things Gabrielle said today because it's so true. Sometimes choosing kindness means you're choosing peace. And lastly, how are you going to make time for life if you're not living it? This was a great episode with our top-notch guest, actress Gabrielle Walsh. Thank you for listening and have a successful day.